Buckle up, revenge fans, for a tale so wild and weird it'll leave you squawking with delight. I'm Jamie, a 35-year-old office manager, and this is how I turned my boss's heartless betrayal into a feathered fiasco he'll never live down. After 10 years of loyalty, he fired me for taking 3 days off to mourn my dad. He thought he'd crushed me. Little did he know, my dad's bizarre legacy, a taxidermied parrot with a hidden secret, would bring his empire crashing down. This is revenge with a side of squawk and awe. I'd worked at Pinnacle Printing, a small but thriving print shop in Boise, Idaho, for a decade. As office manager, I kept everything running: scheduling, payroll, client orders, you name it. My boss, Carlo, was a penny-pinching tyrant who'd yell about paper clips but splurge on his vintage car collection. Still, I loved my team and the work, so I stuck it out. My dad, Frank, had been my biggest cheerleader, a quirky retired veterinarian who lived for bad puns, and his pet parrot, Captain Beak, a foul-mouthed bird who mimicked Dad's voice perfectly. Last spring, Dad passed suddenly from a heart attack. I was devastated. I requested 3 days off for his funeral in Spokane, and Carl grumbled but approved it. I returned to work, still grieving, only to find Carl waiting in my office. He tossed me a termination letter and sneered. "You left us in the lurch, Jamie. You're done." No warning, no severance, just a cold boot after 10 years. He'd already hired a replacement, his nephew, a 22-year-old with zero experience. My team was furious, but Carl held all the power. Or so he thought. Dad wasn't just a vet. He was a tinkerer with a knack for oddball inventions. Captain Beak, his African Grey, had died years ago, but Dad taxidermied him, turning him into a quirky keepsake. What I didn't know until the will reading was that Dad had hidden a microchip in Beak's stuffing, a chip containing recordings of every shady deal he'd overheard while alive, perched in Dad's vet clinic. See, Dad's clinic was a local hub, and Carl, a regular client, often bragged there about dodging taxes and bribing suppliers for cheap ink. Beak had recorded it all, mimicking Carl's voice word for word. The will left me, Beak and a note. "Jamie, this bird's got secrets. Use them wisely." I thought it was Dad's weird humor until I found the chip, embedded in Beak's tail feathers with hours of audio. Carl's confessions included skimming $100,000 from Pinnacle's books and rigging bids to undercut competitors. I also learned Carl had been bad-mouthing me to clients, claiming I was unreliable to justify my firing. That lit a fire in me. I wasn't just going to sue. I was going to make Carl squawk. I wanted revenge that was legal, public, and weird enough to haunt Carl forever. My friend Tara, a tech whiz, helped me extract the audio from Beak's chip. We had gold, Carl admitting to tax evasion, supplier bribes, and even mocking Pinnacle's biggest client, a local bookstore chain. I consulted a lawyer who confirmed the recordings were admissible since Dad's clinic wasn't private property. But a lawsuit felt too tame. I needed flair. Pinnacle was hosting its annual client showcase, a big event where Carl pitched to major accounts. I'd organized it for years, so I knew the setup. A rented community center, a projector, and Carl's big speech. I still had friends on the team, including Lisa, the AV tech. I slipped her $200 to accidentally play a special file during Carl's presentation. The file, a montage of Beak's recordings, edited to sound like Carl confessing mid-speech, with the parrot squawking, "Busted," between clips. I also mailed anonymous USBs with the audio to the IRS and Pinnacle's top clients, labeled Captain Beak's Truth Bombs. To add chaos, I rented a billboard across from Pinnacle's office, set to go live the day of the showcase. It featured a giant photo of Captain Beak perched on Dad's shoulder with the text, "Carl's Secrets, this bird spills all," and a QR code linking to a website I'd built, hosting the audio clips, anonymized to avoid legal trouble. The showcase was packed. Clients, staff, even the mayor. Carl took the stage, droning about Pinnacle's integrity. Then Lisa hit play. The projector blared Carl's voice. "Screw the IRS, I've got $100,000 hidden in my boat." Followed by Beak's, "Busted!" The crowd gasped. Another clip played, Carl laughing about bribing a supplier. Beak squawked again. Carl froze, then screamed, "Turn it off!" But Lisa fumbled the controls, letting it run. Clients stormed out, the bookstore owner yelling, "We're done with you!" The mayor looked horrified. Outside, the billboard lit up, and attendees scanned the QR code, downloading Beak's clips. Social media exploded. Number sign Parrotgate trended locally by nightfall. Carl tried to blame a hack, but the IRS was already knocking, tipped off by my USBs. The bookstore chain pulled their contract, costing Pinnacle $500,000. Carl's nephew quit when clients refused to work with him. My old team texted me, "You're a legend, Jamie." The IRS audited Carl, seizing his boat and fining him $200,000. Pinnacle's board ousted him, and the company nearly folded until a competitor bought it out. I used Dad's small inheritance to start a pet-themed stationery business, selling cards with Captain Beak's face and slogans like "Squawk the Truth." It's a hit at local markets. Carl, he's selling used cars, and locals still call him Parrot Guy. I keep Beak on my desk, his beady eyes a reminder. Never underestimate a grieving daughter with a taxidermied sidekick. Morale of the story? Fire someone for mourning their dad, and their dad's parrot might just bury you. Revenge is weird, and it's got wings. TLDR, boss fired me for taking 3 days off for my dad's funeral. I found a taxidermied parrot with recordings of his shady deals, played them at his big client event and tanked his company. Now I'm running a business and he's dodging the IRS. Karma's gotta be